The following is a presentation of Retro Sports Network, home of the champions of the past, present, and or future. In fact, sometime between now and 1 o'clock Eastern Time, if you're watching live, we will crown a champion, an American League champion. My name is Ron Juckett, this is Retro Sports Network, and this is the fifth and deciding game of the 1982 American League Championship Series. We have fought back and forth. The Baltimore Orioles and California Angels face a one-game do-or-die playoff on this Columbus Day afternoon, the 11th of October, 1982. Baltimore, behind Mike Flanagan, won Game 1, 7-4. The Angels hit 3 homers. They couldn't string 2 base runners together. In Game 2, Kenny Force shut down the Orioles, and Jim Palmer on 3 days rest, could not get through the 7th. Force went the distance. So it was 1-1 coming back. And in Game 3, we thought Baltimore had it wrapped up. It was 7-5 in the top of the 9th inning. After using Tippy Martinez and John Flynn, Earl Weaver goes to bring Sammy Stewart out. Sammy Stewart came in with a 2-run lead. He couldn't retire anybody. Brian Downing's 3-run blast was all the difference as California wins 8-7. Last night, Sunday night, the Orioles held off the Angels. The Orioles got up 4-0. California tied it, but Al Bunbury and John Lowenstein combined for 3 homers, and the Orioles have forced the issue. We will have a 5th and deciding game in this league championship series. Now, the 2 pitchers are Jim Palmer for the Baltimore Orioles and Kenny Force for the California Angels. The keys to the game: Reggie Jackson, maybe the biggest surprise of the entire series, has been knocked down to 6th in the lineup. Freddie Lynn will hit cleanup. Jackson will bat now behind Don Baylor. He is 0 for 17 in the series. They get anything out of Reggie today, California's going to their first World Series. Now for Baltimore, pretty simple. Earl's trying to find his hottest hitters. The only one that's not hitting right now is Cal Ripken. Even Glenn Gulliver is hitting better than he is. So it's a mix and match day. First pitch, well, last night it was broadcaster Chuck Thompson. Because this may be Earl Weaver's last game, they were pressing him to throw it. He didn't want to. His wife says, get your tushy out there and do it. So Earl Weaver, about 5 minutes ago, threw out the first pitch of the game and cried as he got a standing ovation. This Baltimore crowd is fired up. 67 degrees. The winds are out to right center at 12 miles an hour. Now, I will try to only run the home team, but because this is a Game 5, I'm going to manage the visiting pitchers like it's a decisive game. Looks are going to be pretty quick. And the Expos wish it would go 17. You ready? Let's crown a champion, shall we? As Retro Sports Network presents the 5th and deciding game of the American League Championship Series. Today, from Baltimore's Memorial Stadium, it's the American League East champion Baltimore Orioles and the American League West champion California Angels. This game is brought to you by Patreon.com. Want to throw a tip in my jar? Patreon.com/Retro Sports Network. We also have a plan for you to have any game played in the Action PC family for just $10. That's Patreon.com/Retro Sports Network. All right. The band gets cut off. Jim Palmer is taking his warm-up tosses. How you doing, Tribe fan? This should be pretty gosh darn exciting. Jim Palmer on full rest, 3 days rest, 115 pitches. Earl Weaver would have begged, stolen, and borrowed to have him pitch Wednesday against the Expos in Game 1 of the World Series, but that's just not to be. He's got to get there first, and Palmer is his backstop. But he struggled in Game 2. 6 1/3 innings, 4 hits. The homer, he walked 3 and struck out 1. He allowed 2 earned runs and 4 runs in total. the winningest pitcher of the 1970s, is trying to get it done in the early 80s. In the lineup he will face, Brian Downing will lead off, and if California is successful in this ballgame, Brian Downing is sure to be the ALCS MVP. Rod Carew will bat second at first base. Doug DeCinces is at third. He'll bat third. Freddie Lynn moves up to cleanup, not because he has prodigious power, but he's hitting. And the Angels are going to need to produce some runs. Don Baylor, the DH, will bat fifth. Reggie Jackson, who was 0 for 17 in the series, will bat sixth. Bobby Grich, the second baseman, will bat seventh. Tim Foley, the shortstop, will bat eighth, and Bob Boone, who has also struggled at the plate, will hit ninth. Kenny Forsch, by the way, on the mound, can throw as many as 130, and if he can, the later he can go, the better California's chance is. Defensively for Baltimore, the one change from last night is Gary Renicky is a 4-3 in right field. Lowenstein and Bunbury are, you know their numbers. Jim Palmer, by the way, is an 8 on the mound. The infield is unchanged. People have talked about whether Glenn Gulliver should be playing. Well, he is hitting .273. He probably will not bat late in the game, but he and Ripken are a better defensive combination on the left side than anything else that you can throw out there with Ripken. So it's Gulliver it is, and Jim Palmer says he's ready. This Baltimore crowd is ready. Winds are blowing out to right center, 12, 67 degrees, shadows in full effect because it's an afternoon game. We can't interrupt Monday Night Football now, can we? Brian Downing, 8 for 13 on the series, with a double, 2 homers, and 7 RBI. He has walked 4 times. You ready? Let's go. Palmer delivers, ball 4. And Brian Downing sprints down to first base. And that brings up Rod Carew, who is 7 for 18 on the series, with 2 RBI. Captain Carl, how are you this afternoon? O's play for the bunt. Gulliver and Murray are there in case Carew tries to knock one down. Palmer delivers, and there's a ground ball to Gulliver. Dower for 1, no throw to Murray, but they get Downing at first. So a good play by Gulliver, and there's 1 out for Doug DeCinces, who has had a much better time here in Baltimore, which would make sense. He played here in Baltimore than he did in California. 4 for 16, 3 doubles, and 3 RBI. Pitch from Palmer, ground ball to Ripken, to Dower for 1, and that's all they're going to get. So no throw, and we'll see if this works now for the Angels to move Freddie Lynn up to fourth. 273 on the series, 3 for 11 with a homer and 2 RBI. So Palmer, 1 out away from getting out of not a queasy first inning, but you would rather start on a 1-2-3 effort. Pitch to Lynn, gets away from Nolan, and DeCinces goes into scoring position. So runner on second, 3-1 the count. So Lynn waves the bat back and forth. Baylor on deck. Pitch from Palmer, line drive to Ripken, and that will retire the side. No runs, no hits, and no errors. Half an inning in the books. California nothing. Here come the Orioles. Good morning to you too, sir. And DJ John is rooting for the Angels. Kenny Forsch, 9 innings of shutout baseball. He threw a 7-hitter. He walked 1 and struck out 1. And here's the lineup he'll face in the biggest game of the season. Al Bunbury leads off in center field. Glenn Gulliver is at third. He'll bat second. Kenny Singleton is a DH. He'll go third. Eddie Murray, who's had a good 2 games here in Baltimore, will clean up. It worked last night. John Lowenstein, back up in the 5th in the lineup, will play left field. Cal Ripken shifts down to 6th at short. Gary Renicky, who's a good hitter, and Earl thinks he needs his hitters, is in right field. He'll bat 7th. Joe Nolan, who's hitting .545 in the series, will bat 8th, and Rich Dower will bat 9th. Palmer threw 17 pitches in the first. No changes for the Angels. In fact, they've only used 8 of the same 9 batters in all 4 games. They have not used a pinch hitter. They have Juan Benitez. In the second, I'll show you the state of the bullpens as we move along in the game. But safe to say, Mike Witt is a long man for California if needed, and Scotty McGregor is just kind of standing around the Baltimore pen. I cannot imagine that Storm Davis would be ready to go after 6 innings the last 2 games. Al Bunbury, 8 for 18 in the series. That's .444. He had a solo home run last night in the 7th, and 5 RBI. He has scored 3 times. Forsch delivers, ground ball up the middle, Rich to Carew, and there's 1 away. 1 pitch, 1 out for Gulliver, who's 3 for 11. He has singled 3 times. And hits a chopper down to Carew, takes it to the bag himself, 2 out. The Expos, who await the winner, would love this to go about 17 innings, and maybe even have Earl throw an inning or 2. Kenny Singleton, 5 for 18, 278, no homers and 2 RBI in this ALCS. Pitch from Forge, ground ball to Foley on the grass over to Carew, and that will retire the side. Baltimore goes down in order. No runs, no hits, no errors. After 1, it's the Angels nothing, the Orioles nothing. So Baylor, Jackson, and Gritch to face Palmer. And you look at Forrest, he threw 7 pitches in the first inning. Gene Mock would like him to do that about 25 innings if need be. Baylor's had a good playoff. 5 for 17, 2 homers, and 3 RBI. Pitch to Baylor, ball 4. And so let's just show you what's available. In fact, not much is available. Those S's you see by Tippy Martinez and Mike Flanagan tell you that they're on short rest. So Tippy Martinez, who threw 36 pitches in Game 3 and 24 in Game 4, is really not available unless he needs to get to 1 batter. Scott McGregor could go. In fact, he would be the long man today. So the bullpen is McGregor, Grimsley, and that's just pretty ugly for the Orioles, John Flynn, and Sammy Stewart. Boddicker not available, and Storm Davis, of course, is not available. So if the Orioles need to win this pennant in the pen, bring to Chesterfield, you're going to need some. We'll show the Angels pen in the bottom of the second. Reggie Jackson is 0 for 17. And that might be the biggest surprise of them all. Baylor on first after the bases loaded walk. Pitch to Jackson. Into right center field. Back goes Bunbury. It's off the wall. Baylor will round third. Renicki's going to throw home. Nolan puts on the tag. Not in time. And Reggie Jackson scores his first run of the series on an RBI double to right center. And the Angels lead Game 5 1-0. It's about time that Reggie Jackson did something, and there are high fives all the way around as Bobby Grich steps to the plate, 2 for 13 with an RBI. So Palmer needs to forget that in a hurry. Jackson's not going anywhere. He's got to focus on Grich. We just showed you the pen. Scotty McGregor starting to loosen for Baltimore. Here's the pitch. Ball 4. And so that'll bring up Timmy Foley, who's at 267. 4 for 15 on the series with 3 runs scored. Nobody out. He drops one down. Nolan throws it to Dower covering, and that's an out. So they finally get 1 out. And they're going to play for a squeeze, I think. Boone is 1 for 13, but he's got 2 RBI. on that one hit. He is also grounded into 2 double plays. In fact, the Orioles are going to play the infield in. They really don't have much of a choice here with first base open. Palmer deals, ground ball to Murray. He'll take it to first himself, 2 out. So not deep enough to do any more damage. And 35 pitches into Jim Palmer's night, 9 batters, an inning and 2/3. He has allowed 1 hit and walked 3. Brian Downing, one of those walks. Yeah, Reggie not doing what he did in real life, but I watched part of your game last night, Mike, and your team won. So this, in my view, is the MVP right here, Brian Downing, unless Force does something special tonight. Pitch to Brian into center field. Bunbury goes back and makes the catch. So California draws first blood. 1 run on 1 hit, no errors. The Angels leave 2 on. After 1.5, it's California 1, Baltimore nothing. So we showed you in the top of the inning the dire straits that the Orioles are in for a bullpen. You could conceivably use Jeff Zahn for a batter or 2. Andy Hassler is raring to go. He's had a full day's rest. In the right, but Sanchez and Corbett are kind of toast, and that might be a blessing in disguise. You got Mike Witt, you got Dave Goltz, and you've got Steve Renko, who have yet to... Renko hasn't pitched in the series. And all of them, Witt, Goltz, and Renko, were used out of the pen. And if the Angels do win this game, you have the option of using Renko as your Game 1 starter. It really doesn't matter who you're throwing against Steve Rogers. So the Angels have more options than the Orioles. But if anything has been a guide in this series, the best laid plans of mice and men. That's my phone. Hello? Hello? No, I didn't. New scam! New scam! So that's the California bullpen situation. Murray, 5 for 17 in the series. He has a triple and 2 RBI. 4 steals, ground ball to Carew, takes it to the bag himself, and there's 1 out. The ideal situation for the Angels is Force as long as he can throw it. John Lowenstein wants to change that. He now has 3 homers and 6 RBI in the series. He's hitting .545. That's true. That's true. Someone wants to scam me on a student loan. Pitch to Lowenstein. Struck him out. He got him on a 1-2 fastball at 84. He doesn't throw hard, but he does kind of, scuff the ball, makes it move, Vaseline everywhere. And there's 2 out for Ripken, who really has been as bad as Reggie Jackson, 2 for 15 with a triple. And 4 strikeouts. Ground ball to Carew. Takes it to the bag himself, and that will retire the side. Let's go, Tribe. Okay, sure. What's in your water this morning? After 2, it's the Angels 1, the Orioles nothing. And so Forge has retired the first 6 batters, on 15 pitches. It'll be Carew, DeCinces, and Lynn to face Palmer here in the 3rd. And Rod is 0 for 1. What did I study? I studied business at some point in radio. But no one from Vermont is calling me about a federal student loan. Pitch to Carew. Ground ball to Ripken. Over to Murray. And they got him. He's got some speed left in those older legs, but Ripken's got a good arm. 1 out for DeCinces, who's 0 for 1. Baseball Demo says, I sim the 82 season on Action PC up to July 31st, and 3 of the 4 are leading by sizable margins. The only race he had was in the American League East, Milwaukee, by slim lead over Toronto, Detroit, and Baltimore. That's what I had most of the season. Kansas City and Chicago tried to make runs at California, but the Angels won the division in my replay by 10. And the National League wasn't even close. Now, are you getting Montreal, Los Angeles, and California in your other divisions? Yep, Todd's right. Reggie only needs the 1 hit. And if that holds up, there's a plane waiting for somebody. MLB's got a charter, whether it's the Orioles or the Angels, that take that trip to Montreal. Depends on what happens. Pinch to DeCinces. Struck him out. Palmer got him to chase, so 1-2 changeup. First strikeout for Palmer. And here's Freddie Lynn, who's 0 for 1. And Atlanta underperformed. Yep. So that's interesting that you had the same teams that I did. Someone, and I think it's Steve P. on YouTube, or Tabletop Steve over on Facebook is doing it, and Montreal and Los Angeles and Strat are winning their respective divisions. Pitch to Lynn. Ball 4. So Palmer makes the 2-out walk, and never a good thing for Don Baylor. Baylor walked and scored on the Jackson double in the second. Palmer deals. Baylor to left field. Lowenstein's there and makes the catch. No runs, no hits, no errors. We go to the bottom of the third in Game 5. California 1, Baltimore nothing. It's yours, Steve. Yep. Well, remember, there is a roof in Montreal. Weather's not going to be a factor up there. It's going to be 70 degrees and miserable. Clinton played status pro last night. Bottom of the 9th, runner on third. Gene Richards just couldn't get the distance. He couldn't get past the home plate. As Clinton's doing 1980. That's cool. Yeah, that's about right. Baseball Demos. Atlanta was at 500. Even though they won over 90, close to 90 games, the Dodgers just ran away with it. They ran and hid. So Renicky reached. Well, I can't. Oh, he hasn't batted yet. So Renicky 2 for 5 in the series with a single and a double. Force is ready. Here's the pitch. Struck him out. He got him on an 0-2 curve, and that's 2 for Force. And that'll bring up Joe Nolan, who's had a whale of a series. 6 for 11 with 3 RBI. 4 steals. Popped up left side. DeCinces. Plenty of room here, and he makes a fantastic catch for the second out. And so that brings up Rich Dower, who was 3 for 13. He's hitting .231 with the double. It was technically not, Montreal was not enclosed back in 82. I forget what year Les Dormes Orange, or Les Grands Orange, was installed. But the game has it as a dome. We played every game in Montreal as it has a dome, and so we're not ripping it off for the series. And, of course, if California does win this game, Southern California weather's not going to be a factor either. Pitch to Dower. Ground ball to Gritch over to Carew, and Force has retired the first 9 he's faced. After 3, California 1, the Orioles nothing. And Jim Palmer has thrown 60 pitches through 3 innings. And here's Reggie Jackson. He doubled for his first hit of the series. Pitch to Reggie. Struck him out. So Palmer is whiffed 2. He got Reggie to chase on a 1-2 changeup outside of the strike zone. Brings up Bobby Grich, who walked. Palmer from the line. Got him! A 1-2 pitch swung on and missed. And so Jim Palmer is doing his job. Here's Tim Foley. And as we discussed last night, his glasses, part of the Peter Marshall collection, which you can find at JCPenney's all over the country. Foley, well, doesn't say what he is first time up, so we don't care. Bunts that one. Nolan's going to try to throw it down to Murray, and it gets away. Foley's on with an error. It was a swinging bunt, and Nolan went to field it, and he throws it away. And Foley moves on to second. Remember, in Game 2, Palmer allowed 4 runs, but only 2 were earned. And so Nolan is charged with the E2. Sometimes it's just best to eat the ball. And now I'll bring up Bob Boone as 0 for 1. That's a dope. Indeed. To tell you how close this series is, with California's run in the second, both teams have scored 21 runs in this series. You can't get any tighter than that. Pitch to Boone, into center. Bunbury makes a fantastic catch. He slides and dives on the bad grass to retire the side. No runs, 1 hit, 1 error. Does not matter. After 3.5, it's the Angels 1, the Orioles nothing. And the Angels, if you look up on that board, they've left 5 runners on. They've got the 1 run, but they're leaving chances on. Something to keep in mind. Ken Force, 3 innings, 2 strikeouts, 9 batters, 26 pitches. Sure, I'd love to have little 12-year-old Aaron Boone at the plate right now. Here's the pitch to Bunbury, who's 0 for 1. There's a base hit left field. And Bunbury's on. And that's the first Oriole hit. Pitch to Gulliver. There's a base hit in the right field. Bunbury will hold. Grich should have had it. And Gulliver has his 4th hit of the series. So the Orioles got something cooking here in the 4th. Wind blowing out to right center at 12. Here's Singleton. He's 0 for 1. Yeah, I'd take that. Absolutely. Pitch to Singleton. Into center field. Back goes Lynn. He makes the catch. Bunbury will bluff. We've had 5 outfield assists in the series, and so Bunbury did not need to be number 6. He can score on a single. Eddie Murray's 0 for 1. So Force the second time through, having a little bit of trouble. Here's the pitch. Center field, Lynn makes the catch. Bunbury will tag, and certainly will not go that time. And so it brings up John Lowenstein, who struck out his first time up. Already has 3 homers on the series. Yep, I am doing pitching changes for both seasons. In the second inning, if you go back and watch at some point, you saw what my bullpen options are for both teams. For Baltimore, it's pretty limited. There's no Storm Davis. There's no Tippy Martinez. It is patchwork upon patchwork. The Angels also do not have Sanchez or Corbett, which may be the best thing for them. Pitch to Lowenstein. Ground ball, base hit right side. Reggie picks it up. Bunbury ties the ball game. And so the Orioles scratch it back here in the 4th. And it took them 12 2/3 innings, but they finally have a run off of Ken Forge. And Game 5 is tied at 1. For Ripken, who is 0 for 1. Gulliver on 3rd. Lowenstein on 1st. Sammy Stewart or bust? Yeah, these pens are gassed. I could use... who do I have? I have Stewart. He can pitch. I've got Scott McGregor. He can pitch, although not very well. I have John Flynn. And I have Ross Grimsley. That's not... And Sammy Stewart. Pitch to Ripken. Here's a base hit left side. Gulliver scores. Lowenstein to third. And it's 2-1 Baltimore. So the Orioles pull up. And everybody's going nuts. So Forsch says he's fine. Mock says, look, you don't have much rope here. Gary Renicky struck out his first time up. Forsch deals, ball 4, and I think we're down to last batter here. If he doesn't get Nolan, I think he's got to make the move. Mike Witt and Dave Goltz are warming for the Angels. Pitch to Nolan. Base hit left side. Lowenstein scores. Foley got a poor jump on the play. Here comes Ripken. Downing's throw home is not in time. It's 4-1 Baltimore here in the fourth. And they're going crazy. Out comes Gene Muck. Out goes Ken Forsch. In comes Dave Goltz. And so Dave Goltz has gone 6 1/3 innings in this playoffs. He's allowed 9 hits. He has no record. He has walked 1 and struck out 6. He pitched in Game 1, he's pitched in Game 3, and now he's pitching in Game 5. As the Orioles lead 4-1. You've now given Jim Palmer a 3-run lead. So the Orioles, who couldn't get anybody on the first 3 innings, have put 4 across here in the fourth. Here's Rich Tower, he's 0 for 1. Yeah, I don't think you can put a position player in. So the Orioles lead it 4-1. 2 out, bottom of the fourth. Big rally, and Joe Nolan with a big hit. Pitch to Dower from Goltz. Chopper up the middle. Foley flips it to Gritch. Foley saved a run, but the Orioles put 4 on the board on 5 hits and no errors. After 4, it's Baltimore 4, California 1. So it'll be Downing, Carew, and DeCinces. Palmer, 79 pitches through 18 batters. 4 innings, 2 hits. The 1 run coming from Reggie Jackson, who finally got a hit. He has walked 4 and struck out 3. And now you gotta wonder who's gonna go long in the pen, because Palmer's feeling kind of gassed already. Pitch to Downing. Ball 4. Full count 2. Here's Carew. He's 0 for 2. Let's show you that Baltimore pen situation again. It's bad. McGregor, Flynn, Grimsley, and Stewart. I mean, do you put your season on the line with a kid that can't find a strike zone? Great ERA. John Flynn would be what you would consider for a closer, but it depends how long Palmer can give you and how many outs you need to get. Right now, they need 15. Pitch to Carew. Into right field, Renicky's there for the first out. Doug DeCinces is 0 for 2 with a strikeout. Palmer deals. Center field, Bunbury, 2 out. Here's Freddie Lynn. He's 0 for 1 with a walk. California has scratched and clawed, and the Orioles have 2. Baltimore won Game 1 and 4. California Game 2 and 3. Pitch to Lynn. Struck him out. Palmer got him looking on a full count. I don't know how much longer Jim can go, but halfway home, it's Baltimore 4, California 1. And so here's the final line on Force. You can just see how fast it went away. After retiring the first 9 men over 3 innings, you look at that 4th inning for Force. 2/3 of it, 5 hits, 4 runs all earned. He walked 1 and struck out 2. Palmer, 5 innings, 2 hits, a run it's earned so far. He has walked 5 and struck out 4. So he might have 1 more in him. And then, oh boy. So Reggie Jackson and Tim Foley have the 2 hits for the Angels. Joe Nolan with a big hit, the 2-run single for the Orioles. And John Lowenstein's hitting .538. I'm not sure if Stoddard is available or not. I know he pitched part of the year. I went through and cut out those who had pitched the least amount and hit the least amount that were active. They had to be on the active roster at the end of the year for me to have them in the playoff. I think if the Orioles hold on right now, Scott McGregor would start game 1. I mean, it really doesn't matter who you throw against Steve Rogers. And you try to, theoretically, to get the split with Denny Martinez over Charlie Lee in game 2. Al Bumbry is 1 for 2. He has singled and scored in this one. That came in the 4th. Pitch from Goltz. Ball 4. Baltimore's pen is stretched like Jim Palmer's Fruit of the Loom endorsements. I mean, I'll show it to you. Tim Stoddard's not available. Nope, he was done August 27th. So I'm not bringing him in. He had a great year too, but they lost him on August 27th. So here's Glenn Gulliver, 1 for 2. He's got himself a single and a run scored. Yeah, but that was the last time he pitched all year. He didn't pitch in September. Pitch to Gulliver. Ground ball to Foley. Gritch for 1 over to Carew. And that's it. That's 2. So they get the double play. And there's 2 outs here in the bottom of the 5th. So Stoddard last pitched on August 27th and then was ineligible was out the rest of the year. And trust me, if he was available, especially down the stretch, Baltimore would have used him. We'll see. They got to win this one first. Kenny Singleton is 0 for 2. Goltz has got an inning. Pitch to Kenny, and there's a ground ball to Gritch. Over to Carew, and that will retire the side. We go to the 6th inning. No runs, no hits, no errors. After 5, Baltimore 4, California 1. And Palmer is going to have Earl make some tight decisions in a big hurry. Baylor, Jackson, and Gritch. And what probably is Jim's last inning of this ALCS. Baylor is 0 for 1 with a walk and a run scored. In fact, he scored the lone run of the game for California in the 2nd. Pitch from Palmer. Ground ball to Gulliver. Over to Murray for the out. Here's Reggie Jackson. He has doubled and struck out here in Game 5. 1 out, top the 6th. Palmer deals. Struck him out. He got him on an 0-2 pitch. For strike 3. That's 5 for Palmer. Palmer has pitched well and is in line to get the win. Bobby Grich is 0 for 1. He has walked and struck out. And there's a fly ball left field. Lowenstein is there, and that will retire the side. So Palmer, he puts up a 1 as he heads back to the dugout. He thinks he's got another inning in him, and Earl says, I hope you do. 5.5 down, 4-1 Orioles. So Eddie Murray, John Lowenstein, and Cal Ripken will bat here in the bottom of the 6th off Goltz. Pitch from Dave, ground ball to Grich. Over to Carew, 1 away. John Lowenstein, 1 for 2, has an RBI and a run scored. Single and a strikeout. Goltz delivers. There's a base hit left side. He puts one through the hole the opposite way, and that's the 6th hit for the Orioles. Remember when I said about the Angels leaving runners on? They've left 6, and the Orioles have left 2. Wind's blowing out to right center at 12. And here's Cal Ripken, RBI single in the 4th with a run scored. Pitch to Cal, to Foley, Grich for 1, over to Carew, and Goltz is doing his job. No runs, 1 hit, no errors. Double play after 6, Baltimore 4, California 1. And so it's Foley, Boone, and Downing to face Palmer and company here in the 7th. And Ron Jackson's going to pinch hit. So for the first time in the series, Gene Mock's going to his bench. Papa Jack, 331, 2 homers and 19 RBI on the real year. Palmer, pretty much down to a base runner, I would think. Pitch to Jackson, ball 4. And so they're going to come in for Boone. Palmer again gives 1 finger for Earl. I can get him, I can get him. Earl rocking back and forth. Pitch to Boone. Ground ball to Ripken. Dower for 1. There's no throw to first. And there's 1 out for Brian Downing. And now Earl goes to the mound. They have a conversation. And Earl says, John Flynn, this is your ball game. So Jim, 6 1/3 innings again. He's pitched a whale of a game. But you can't have it slip away. So pitching change coming. 1 out, top of the 7th. It'll be John Flynn. 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits. Brian Downing has walked twice and is 0 for 1. Boone, no trouble on first. Double play gets him out of the inning. They are not expecting Flynn to get 8 outs. But he can make it a lot easier for somebody if he can just get 2. Ground ball foul, and the count goes to 1-2 on that chopper past third. No, 2 hits won't do it for California. John Flynn, I'm sure filled in for Stanhouse or Stoddard, who the Orioles do miss. Kind of a one-hit wonder that couldn't really find the strike zone. Threw very hard, but he got hit very hard too. 1-2 the count to Downing. Runner on first. Fly ball left center. Bunbury, 2 out. For Rod Carew, who's 0 for 3. So we'll see who plays short for the Angels in the bottom of the 7th. The Flim Flam man. Carew's 0 for 3. Line drive all the way to the wall in left center. Boone's going to hustle. Lowenstein's going to throw. Ripken throws it home. Not in time. 4-2. So the Angels are not dead yet. 4-2. 2 out. Top the 7th. for Doug DeCinces, who is 0 for 3. So the tying run at the plate. This thing's had more twists and turns than an Alpine road. Pitch from Flynn. Center field. Bumbry's got it. He's got it. 1 run, 1 hit, and no errors. Andy Hassler's coming in. Dave Goltz has done a good job. We go to the bottom of the 7th. Stretch time in Baltimore. 4-2. And again, a chance to thank you for all the watching you've done this season and such. We still have the World Series to go, and that will start Saturday night at 8 o'clock. I need a day or two to recover, get some mojo back, do some stuff with Mr. Gardner, and then we will play the World Series. Game 1 Saturday at 8 from Montreal, and Game 2 Sunday at 4. Right here on Retro Sports Network. So Andy Hassler has thrown 3 2/3 innings. He's allowed 3 hits. He has walked 2 and struck out 2, and he will face Renicky, Nolan, Maybe, and Dower here in the bottom of the 7th. So your Orioles 6 outs away from the pennant, but now that pavement has ended and that road gets rather rocky. Renicky is a walk and a strikeout. He's 0 for 1. Pitch from Hassler. Ball 4. Yeah, I mean, this is 8 games in pretty much 9 days. So here's Joe Nolan. 1 for 2. He's got a single and drove in 2. And right now, that stands as the pennant winner there. And so if the Orioles do win this game, I would say that it's John Lowenstein is your MVP. Those 2 home runs in Game 4 were beyond huge. Pitch to Nolan. Struck him out. Oops. Because I wasn't paying any attention and let Nolan bat. Here's Dower. 0 for 2. Hassler ready. Runner on first. Ball 4. And so do you bunt Bumbry here? I think you do. You can see Earl kind of closing his eyes. Bumbry's going to sack. Boone, great play over to Gritch, and Bumbry's out. And now you come get Glenn Gulliver because you're going to let Hassler bat. Now we need someone who can hit a lefty. It's Ayala. Benny has walked in the series. He hits lefties at a 309 clip. Renicky on third. Dower on second. 2 out, bottom of the 7th. The Orioles pretty much are an insurance run away from the American League Championship. So we think. I don't know if you get a 3-run homer here, but 1 is huge. And they're going to throw him on to first base and let Andy Hassler face Kenny Singleton, who does not hit lefties well. And so Dan Ford is going to come in. Singleton gets a high 5. Ford, 4 for 13 in the series. He has singled 3 times and doubled. So Renicky on third, Dower on second, Ayala on first. 4-2 Baltimore, bottom of the 7th inning. And Boone and Hassler have a few words. Andy deals. And there's a ground ball to Kelleher, flips it to Gritch, and that will retire the side. So Kelleher, who's a 3 at short, gets the force, and the Orioles don't get anything. We go to the top of the 8th. No runs, no hits, no errors. After 7, Baltimore 4, California 2. So Ripken moves to third. He's a 5. Sakata will bat second. And Dan Ford, of course, stays in the game as the DH. So Flynn hold on to a 2-run lead. Freddie Lynn is 0 for 2. He's walked and struck out. And that one is... what? Well, I'm not sure what in the world just happened. I think Lynn singled. Yeah, Lynn must have singled. What in the world just happened? All I see is a shadow. So Lynn singled. And he must have tried going for second. Went back to first. And Sakata tried to run him down. And Lynn beat out the rundown. So I'm going to say that was a single to left center. Lynn turns the corner. Realized he was hung out in no man's land. Sakata with a late throw to first. And Lynn takes second. On a close throw by Murray. I have no idea what that was. Yep, this one has been all that in a bag of chips. My goodness. So the tying run is on second. And so Flynn will pitch to Baylor, and then that will probably be it. Especially with Reggie coming up. Pitch to Baylor. Into center field. Back goes Bunbury. He makes the catch for the out. So 1 out here in the top of the 8th. And Reggie's done. Flynn's done. And so Earl takes a look around and says to Tippy, get Reggie. So Tippy Martinez throwing for the 3rd straight day. He's exhausted. But you're 5 outs away from the World Series, so you really don't have much of a choice. He is a lone save of the series, 3 1/3 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Jackson finally got a base hit. His RBI double in the second was the first run of the game. You're going to pitch to Jackson. Here we go. Struck him out. Tippy does his job. Jackson fouls it in the glove of Joe Nolan, and there are 2 outs for Bobby Grich. Wow. So Grich is 0 for 2. He has walked and struck out. And Tippy says, I want him. And Earl says, you get him. Into right field. Renicky. We go to the bottom of the 8th. It's John Curtis coming in to pitch for the Angels. The Orioles are 3 outs away from a championship. So John Curtis, oh my God. What a horrible decision for the Angels. 0-1 on the real season with a save. 12 innings, 16 hits. He walked 3 and struck out 10. It's Murray, Lowenstein, and Ripken. And again, any run here is huge. Pitch to Murray. Ground ball to Carew. To the bag, 1 out. What a terrible series for Reggie Jackson. It'll be Kelleher, maybe. Boone and Downing in the 9th. Lowenstein. I think you got to leave him in the ball game. Earl's leaving him in. And he strikes out. 3-2 on the inside corner, 2 out for Cal Ripken, who was 3 for 18 in this ALCS, 1 for 3 with an RBI single today and a run scored. So Curtis, talking about tap dancing through a minefield, has 2/3 of the job done. Pitch to Cal, into right center, back goes Reggie, that is off the pen, and Ripken's got himself a double. So 2 outs, only 7 hits for the Orioles, 4 for California. for Gary Renicky, who was walked twice and struck out. Yep, DH in an even year. And so Renicky, 2 for 6 on the series. And they're going to toss some 4 wide ones, and you're not letting Joe Nolan bat again. So Rick Dempsey is 2 for 4. He's 2 doubles and 2 runs scored. Ripken on second. Renicky on first. 2 outs, bottom of the 8th. Baltimore 3 outs away from the pennant. Boone and Curtis have a few words. John delivers. Dempsey ground ball to DeCinces, over to Gritch, and we go to the top of the 9th. And so there's some discussion here whether Tippy will come in to throw this inning or not. Tippy says he's fine. Earl says you got it. Kelleher, 163 on the year with an RBI. And so the Orioles are 3 outs away from the pennant. Juan Beniquez is going to pinch hit. So Beniquez, 265, 3 homers and 24 RBI. This is his first at-bat of the series. And Earl comes to get him. Sammy Stewart, you gotta trust him. He's pitched 1/3 of an inning. He's allowed 3 hits, a homer and a strikeout. Right. So the matchup favors the Orioles. Stewart can atone for Game 3 right now. The championship series is in his hand. Pitch to Beniquez. Center field. Bunbury. 1 out. It won't be Palmer. There won't be enough rest. It'll be Denny Martin and it'll be Scott McGregor. Who the Orioles did not need in this series, did not have a great season, but he's the only Oriole pitcher on full rest. So it'll be, if they win, McGregor in Game 1 and Denny Martinez in Game 2. Bob Boone is 0 for 3 with a run scored. This place is going crazy. And, of course, Rogers and Lee in Games 1 and 2 in Montreal. Everybody on full rest up there. Stewart deals. Chopper to Cicada by the bag at second, 2 out. And the Orioles are 1 out away. The horses ring around the warning track to prevent the crowd from running on the field and destroying. Nope. There was only 1 day off and there's a roof in Montreal. You'll see Jim Palmer on full rest in Game 3, right back here, probably against Scott Sanderson. Brian Downing is 0 for 2. He has walked twice. John Lowenstein has been given the American League Championship Series MVP. Pitch to Downing, ground ball to Ripken, over to Murray. Earl, you get another week. The Baltimore Orioles have won the pennant. And for the 4th time in the championship series era, the Orioles are for the 5th time, the Orioles are going to the championships, the World Series. They are your 1982 American League champions. So the Orioles, who lost Game 1 and lost Game 3, win 2, 4, and 5, and send Jim Palmer to his 6th World Series. For Earl Weaver, this is his 5th World Series. And if the Orioles win this World Series, then technically they would win back-to-back series because they, of course, won in '83. And so they pour out of the mound. Vindication for Sammy Stewart. Baltimore has won the American League in one of the more dramatic championship series of all time. Reggie Jackson hits .048. So Jim Palmer gets the win. And John Lowenstein, 2 for 4, is your MVP. Jim Palmer, 6 1/3 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, all earned. He walked 6 and struck out 5. John Flynn, what a ball game from him. Tippy Martinez had bad stuff, but he got the 2 batters he needed, and those were huge. And Sammy Stewart just points skyward and gets that 9-pitch inning out of the way. It was 1 inning. Forster retired the first 9 batters and then had 1 bad inning. The California pen did its job, but it won't matter. As the Baltimore Orioles are going to Montreal. So it will be Scott McGregor, who's on full rest in Game 1 against Steve Rogers. In Game 2, it'll be Denny Martinez against Charlie Lee. And when we come back to Baltimore, Jim Palmer against Scott Sanderson, which for the Orioles actually works well, because then if it does go 7, you get Palmer on full rest in Game 7. So the Orioles probably will break ranks and use 4 pitchers in the series. They would use Mike Flanagan in Game 4 and have everyone on full rest, because the Expos pitchers are on full rest and they have lots of options too. So we are set. It is the Baltimore Orioles and the Montreal Expos. Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Game 1, right here on Retro Sports Network. Congratulations to Earl Weaver and the Orioles. What a great series, and so glad we got to share it together. I'm off tomorrow. We'll talk to you sometime in the next couple days, but until then, thank you so much. Hit that like and subscribe, and hit the bell when I go live. Thanks, everybody.